Hey everybody, we're going to talk about primaries now. We got
Yes.
3, and then the fact that some places didn't have primaries and what's up with that.
Exactly.
Actually,
Okay.
let's do that first. So
do
you had
first.
an experience?
I did. I was so excited for primary day yesterday.
As you
I
should
was
be.
My civic duty. I know the date. I knew what was going on. Everybody's posting their I voted pictures on Facebook. I went to my primary place. Nothing. No sign. Regular day at PS 41. I'm looking around. I call my brother. I'm like, who went to vote in his primary. I said, there's no primary happening. I said, did they change my polling place? And he actually looked it up for me while I was standing on the corner.
That was cool.
forlornly. It was very nice of him. And he said, so there are no contested elections in your assembly district?
Just
I said,
across Fifth Avenue. You
I know,
were
if only.
Ah.
He said, so there's no polling.
Yep.
And I thought, how frustrating, because at this point, some of us are whipped into this frenzy of, let go goddamn vote. And then you go to vote, and you can't.
You
because
make the
there's nothing
time, you
there.
take the trip, and there's
And
nothing.
I am not the only one. And so I posted something on Facebook, and it turns out that happened to a whole bunch of people.
Yes.
And so I think that one of the reasons for low voter turnout is things like this. You go to vote, and not only is there nothing there, but you hadn't got any advance notice. So where were the politicians who were running in November sending an email saying, hey folks, you don't have to vote in the primary, but make sure you turn out in November? Or the political clubs who could have put something on a website, say, we know that it's polling today, but not for us. Or a postcard or something, just some information from somewhere. You send an email, it came later in the afternoon, but there are lots of people who vote on
It
their
came
way.
at like 10.
Okay, it came, right. But for people...
And it listed, the point being, it listed the districts that were having primaries.
Right. But for people who are aware, like I now know I'm Assembly District 66 Part A, but there's still so many people out there who don't even really know that.
Yes.
To know, oh yes, here's an email, here's my district, let's go. I just think that the communication about the primaries was an epic fail because now people are disheartened and disengaged. When you go to show up and then
Well-
there's nothing there, you know, do you want to show up the next time?
I will see what I can do for my part next time, but we should talk to the clubs, ask your clubs to keep you informed and be in touch with them so that
Yeah.
you know whether there's a primary in your district or not. But everybody's going to have an election in November, so don't sleep on that. And in September. September 13th is the local primaries. November 6th is the midterm elections. So
the
no to
September
turn out
one-
then.
Wait, the September one, is everybody going to have a primary? Or is it
Yes,
still again
because
some...
the governor at the very least is being contested.
Okay.
So everybody will have a
So September
primary in
primaries,
September.
people, when you go to vote, you'll actually be able to vote.
That's correct. Now,
That's exciting.
we've still got a bunch of other elections to cover,
Right.
so let's hit them fast. First, Staten Island. Democrat Max Rose wins. He's a veteran. He was heavily favored to win. The real upset there is that Dan Donovan beat Michael Grimm. So Republicans, much to the surprise of everybody, decided not to vote for a convicted felon. Now,
I just don't find that as shocking as other people say, like, oh my God, he won. Well, convicted felon, I don't know. I didn't even know that you could run for office as a convicted felon.
you definitely can. I believe you get ejected from office for being convicted, but you can always run again after you're out of prison, served your term, to your time.
So Donald Trump, if he's convicted after this, he can run for something else.
Oh, don't be silly. He's going to pardon himself.
There you go.
But the point being, a lot of people are wondering whether or not this is a good thing for the Democrats or a bad thing because many people would rather run against a
The
felon.
convicted felon, right.
My personal belief is if the Republicans are so hard in the paint for Republicans that they'll vote for a convicted felon, Democrats are not going to take that seat back anyway.
Right.
The enthusiasm for somebody who's a convicted felon in the primary translates into this dude can do no wrong and we're coming out hard in the general.
Right, fair enough. All right, so you can look at that both ways. And then the big primary news.
Well, actually, there's two, so I don't know what
Oh.
you're talking about. There's Maloney versus Siraj and then Crowley versus Ocasio.
All right, well, Maloney's versus Siraj. I mean, Maloney won.
She did win.
All right,
Decently
it's not that,
handily.
right, it's not that exciting.
All right, so the big one, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez beats Joe Crowley. And listen, I'm writing a really long thing about this. It's going to go on the internet tomorrow, but this is amazing.
Well, people have said, I heard Chris Matthews, I think, say, this is the biggest upset in the history of politics. I'm like, that was an inflammatory statement, but people are just
I mean, Donald Trump
really-
did beat Hillary Clinton, but
But did he really? I mean, he did, but he didn't.
what I will
He's
say about
president
this,
now, but this was a very big deal.
this is the biggest upset to political establishment maybe in history. Because Donald Trump was still the candidate of a major political party.
Right.
Joe Crowley is the leader of what is probably considered the strongest political machine in the United States of America.
So he was like number 4, right?
In Congress.
In Congress. So he was like an established, way up there, looking to be a
He
leadership.
he was one of the most likely candidates to succeed Pelosi as Speaker of the House.
Wow.
The odds of him losing, well, actually, the odds of him losing are completely separate from what his actual representation of his odds of him losing were, but nobody thought this guy could be beaten. He has an enormous wealth of resources. He has an entire organization of Democratic clubs, district leaders, county committee members who are, in theory, at his beck and call. He is the most powerful, or was the most powerful person in New York City, maybe even New York State.
Wow, that's serious stuff, man.
Yes.
And I read
and if he had
somewhere-
become Speaker of the House, he would have been one of the most powerful people in the country.
Right. So I read somewhere that he out fundraised her like $18 to $1. Like she just
Yes.
was a scrappy little campaign
Yes.
and was a Bernie supporter,
Yes.
a passionate community activist.
Yes.
And I mean, what was it? I just read, the demographics changed of the area that he covered.
Right. I suppose this is probably the most compelling piece, and it helps us understand actually how these elections work, and maybe even gives us some insight as to the future of the midterms and running Democrats in contested districts and coming from behind. Joe Crowley was elected in like 1999 or something. His district was redrawn in 2010. Now, the district, unbeknownst to many, I've been in politics now for like 10 years, and I have done a lot of interacting with Queens. It never occurred to me that one, Joe Crowley, a white dude, represented a majority-minority district. That district is 49% Hispanic. He's a white guy. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is Hispanic. 2, Joe Crowley is Queens. He's the boss of the Queens machine. It is the most powerful and put together county organization in the city. Half his district, 25% of his district is in the Bronx. He actually has an alliance with the Bronx machine, which is one of the things that helped make Corey Johnson Speaker of the City Council. But the idea that Joe Crowley represents Bronx, I had no idea. And I bet voters in the Bronx had no idea either. And finally, Alexandria Ocasio knew all of this.
Right.
When I spoke to her at caucus weekend, which is, whatever, it doesn't matter what caucus weekend is. I spoke to her, and I had initially heard that somebody was drinking English, and I was like, no way. And she told me this. She told me it's a majority-minority district. I mean, white people are like 23%. It's a large chunk of it, a quarter of it's in the Bronx. And, it's also demographically young. 30% of the electorate is below the age of 40. And I was just like, you've got a path here. What we can take away from this, at least as far as I'm concerned, is that people who are their district have a shot at winning even against the most entrenched incumbents.
No, that's inspiring.
If you are from the district, represent the district, care about the district, and communicate well with the people who live there, you can win. Representative democracy can be a real thing as long as people who are representative challenge those who aren't.
I think that the hope for the future of this country is not white people.
Well, I mean, it depends on the district. That's the lesson, I think.
Right, but as minorities become the majority,
Yes.
and white people become the minority, hopefully we'll be able to turn this country around.
What I can say assuredly is that Congress is 100% out of touch with the demographic makeup of this country and the districts that make it up.
So hopefully this is the year that we're going to start having wider representation. And
if it's not, it's all going down because Anthony Kennedy's resigning, and now the far right will control all 3 branches of government with an outright majority. So yeah, midterms, folks, let's get out there, and all we have to do is make sure that our Congress reflects the people who live in this country, and we'll be in good shape.
Yeah.
So let's do it.
vote.